You know, Roy Nelson, he talks a lot, so that makes, you know, that always motivates me when somebody has a lot to say about me in a negative fashion, and especially, you know, fought my teammate and, you know, talked a little bit trash about him. You know, Brendan Schaub, you know, I don't know, most of you probably know who he is. He's doing real well right now, and I know he's got a fight coming up. You guys don't know who, but I do. Any offers?
Canada. I know you're a teammate of GSP's too. I was just wondering if you ever wrestled them. They had a thing on a sports show here in Canada where he wrestled George the Rock, and he just dominated him. And I was wondering what you think of GSP's wrestling.
What I think of GSP's wrestling, I think GSP has one of the best MMA wrestling games in the game today. As far as pure wrestling, GSP's come to our room down there with the Division I wrestlers, and as a pure wrestler, you know, he's working on things, but as an MMA wrestler, I think he's one of the best. MMA wrestling can't be compared to, you know, collegiate or freestyle or Greco wrestling. It's much different when some guys are throwing punches at you. I can tell that I sparred around with GSP when he came to Denver and he took me down. I was super disappointed. Little 170 guy. And I'll tell you what's so great about GSP is how he times his takedowns, and it's always off of guys' punches, and when they're overextended and they have no defense to their legs. That's a type of timing that I think is fairly difficult to pick up, and GSP has seemed to master it. So hopefully you'll get to see that tonight if you guys do pay attention when Koscheck is throwing punches and when GSP times his takedowns. Koscheck might be a better wrestler in pure wrestling, but in MMA wrestling, when people are throwing punches, it's a lot different on timing and takedowns and how you work things, and I think GSP will be able to showcase that tonight.
Great on. And last one, has Brock accepted you as a friend on Facebook yet?
Has Brock? Yeah. I don't even think Brock knows how to work a computer.
Before we get to the next question there, just because we were talking about GSP, Dana White made some ripples in Canada, and especially here in Edmonton, when he said that GSP was the biggest athlete globally to ever come out of Canada, bigger than Wayne Gretzky, who is an absolute legend around here and in Canada. With MMA being so big around the world, do you think that's a fair statement to make?
You know, I don't know, Wayne Gretzky's a pretty big name for Canada and hockey is, but you know, GSP represents the country very well, and as long as the UFC and MMA continue to grow globally, you know, that might be the case someday, but where we are right now, you know, I don't know about you know, being bigger than Wayne Gretzky. I mean, it's different sports and stuff. Obviously, GSP, I think, is the biggest name and probably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and a great model for the sport. This has been ongoing for 3 years. The surgeon that I had, he works with the Denver Broncos. He's the real Doogie Howser. He graduated Harvard at 18, so I felt like I was in great hands. And my issue was it's not anything disc in my neck. It's where your nerves shoot out the sides of your vertebrae. It's the surgery I had, I believe, is called a foraminity, something like that. I should be able to talk a little better about that. But anyway, the bones had grown in and they were pinching my nerves off at the C6, C7 area, and it had closed in bad enough. One of my last practices, I threw Brendan, and pretty much the whole right side of my body shut down, and my arm was just hanging there for about 10 minutes until those nerves were ready to recover. And I went in there, saw Dr. Chad, and he's one of the only 2 surgeons that performed this surgery that he invented, and they basically go in there, and so that nerve was being pinched off like this, 2 of them. One of them felt like a knife in the back, and the other one made my hand completely numb in my arm. So what he did, he roto-rooted that bone out, made a nice big hole for that nerve to give it plenty of room. And honestly, I haven't felt this good in 3 years, and especially with hand strength. And I know it's going to help with you know, speed and overall performance in my body. So if anything, I'll come back a much better fighter, hopefully.
So when are we looking at seeing you back then in the ring?
I'm hoping as early as May. You know, being down this long, there's other things I have to work on. You know, I have to get some strength back up, some speed. You know, obviously timing. Get some time back in the octagon. I don't know if you guys got to watch. When I talk about those things, what makes me instantly think about is Rampage when he fought Rashad. If you watch Rampage in the octagon, he looked a little bit out of his element. His timing was way off. He was a little slow, and that's because, you know, he thought he'd be a movie star for a year and come back and fight in a couple months, and it just doesn't work that way, you know. Guys today we train year round. It's a grueling sport, and it's not like football or anything else where they train for 6 months and then they have a break. You know, we're in that room year round working on our timing, training, and technique.
And last question, are you looking at any potential fights in Canada ever?
Yeah, I would love to come up here and look. You know, that one in, I think Toronto might be a little early. What time were they talking about that?
It's April 30th.
April 30th, yeah, that might be a little soon for me, but 68,000 crazy Canadians, that sounds fun to me.
Thanks so much.
As long as you're not fighting a Canadian, we'd probably be all right. There isn't a real Canadian heavyweight that can go with you, so that's probably good to say. All right, let's go to the little guy there.
How many people did you beat up?
How many people did I beat up? Well, right now I think my record is
12-1.
12, yeah, see, I need help.
But he's actually beaten up 13 people because he kicked Brock's ass.
I'll give you another. I'll give this kid something else. Do you guess how many fights I got in growing up? 0. Because my mom would have whipped my ass then.
I just want to know when you were versing Brock and your prime time and you train with Rashad, are you really close with him?
With Rashad?
Yeah.
A lot of you guys don't know as me as a big talker, but when Rashad's in the room, I talk nonstop with that guy. Me and him jab at each other all the time, and that's just the real Rashad. You know, that's who he is. He can talk, and you know, we train hard together. We go hard together. We love to train with each other because we push each other. And you know, honestly, he's probably one of the best training partners I have to go with when we're sparring, wrestling, and you know, just the whole game.
And another question, the fight that we all want to see but probably never happened is GSP versus Anderson Silva. Do you have any questions on that one?
You know, I think someday you guys, you might be able to get that wish. I think for some reason, I think the UFC should to put it together if they could meet at a catch weight. I know GSP's a little smaller, and I'm not sure exactly what Anderson Silva walks around, but you know, I would love to watch that fight.
And another one, on your other fights, well, you're not a 5-round fighter, a 3-round fighter. You pretty much leave it all in the first round. When you train, do you just train for that first round, or you?
No, actually, you know, getting ready for that fight with Brock, the whole thing was, you know, I was training 5 rounds, and every minute they were having fresh guys come in on me, and by the end of camp, I felt great. You know, I just think there were some things that happened in that fight. One of them was in the Brock fight, I tensed up, and when I was going in to finish him, I think I had stopped breathing. And when you cut your body off of oxygen and you're expending that much energy, it's a recipe for catastrophe, which is exactly what happened.